I would like to welcome back to our podcast Arwen FitzGerald from USCIS, Texas. Could you introduce yourself again and talk a little bit about your job, please?
Sure. My name is Arwen FitzGerald. As you said, I'm a public affairs officer for USCIS, and my job is to communicate with the media and stakeholders about our job in immigration. I just wanted to let people be aware that immigration scams are a serious national problem, and one of our priorities is combating immigration services scams. And we work with law enforcement agencies and the FTC and our fellow agencies within the Department of Homeland Security to combat fraud. But the best way that we can combat fraud is to be alerted to it.
Over the Christmas holidays, one person contacted me who was very upset that she would have to go for a medical exam. She said a gynecological medical exam before she goes to her USCIS interview. And I said, I don't think you're going to the right doctor. And I was able to direct her to the medical information that you guys had on my USCIS. So I really appreciated that I was able to provide her some immediate service. That kind of misinformation, when it gets out, it really provides a lot of anxiety and feeds into sometimes not being prepared or being prepared, overly prepared in the wrong ways for the interviews. Have you ever heard about something like that?
No, but it was funny you bring that up. And just on Twitter the other day, somebody tweeted at USCIS going, "Oh, now you're charging me $100 to do my interview."
Yeah.
And so there's new scams evolving. As I like to say, if there's a benefit from the U.S. government, there'll always be a scam associated with it.
Okay. Yes, exactly. What would you like to first talk about?
The first thing I really want everyone to know is that, and this statement kind of goes to all the scams, is that USCIS never asks for any form of payment over the phone or by email. So if one of your students or one of your listeners gets a call or an email claiming or even looking like USCIS with official letterhead on an email, or they sound very official over the phone and they're requesting payment, it's not us. Just hang up immediately. Or you can forward the email to our fraud tip line, which is reportfraudtips@uscis.dhs.gov.
Can I tell you the twist I heard on this? My students were getting phone calls. The person was saying that they were from the IRS and said if they did not pay back taxes, that they would immediately report them to USCIS and also report them to ICE.
That is a popular one, especially around tax season.
Yes.
That scam seems to pop up around March and April.
I do have here a link from the Customs and Border Patrol. It says that DHS and the consulates warn migrants against telephone fraud scams.
Those are the ones where someone's calling and asking for money to help you with your petition, or any telephone scam where someone is posing as a member of the U.S. government asking for payment or for personal information over the phone is a scam, because we don't call people and ask for that. And we don't accept any payments over the phone. And we don't accept Western Union or MoneyGram or PayPal for payment of services. So if anybody's asking you to pay that way, that's a scam. And we don't email you asking you to pay something either. Like, everything is done. You can pay online through our official .gov website, or you mail in your payments via a check to our lockboxes.
What was the next scam that you wanted to talk about?
It's one that we had mentioned on a previous call, and it's not on the website, but it's the smartphone applications. I just want to reemphasize to your listeners that USCIS has one application on Google Play and iTunes, and it's called USCIS Civics Test Study Tool. We do not have a check your status application. We do not have case tracker applications. So I highly emphasize to your listeners, do not give them your A-file information to check your case status. We have that on our website. If you go to, you can create a My USCIS account and check your case status through USCIS.gov.
And that's under tools too, correct?
It is. You're correct.
USCIS does have a really good website that talks about scams.
First place that we always want people to go to is our website, USCIS.gov. URL is USCIS.gov/avoid-scams/common scams. But if you were just to put in Google USCIS and the word scams, it would bring you to our website.
What are the scams related to the TPS re-registration scams?
That one's pretty basic. Until USCIS puts out an official TPS redesignation information on our website, don't pay or submit any forms until that has been updated.
How about immigration scams in India?
Those are interesting because those are people that are getting emails sent by our field office to them saying that you need to come in and send some attachments, some personal information. Again, it's kind of goes along with the email scams, looking official with our logo, copy and paste it onto the email, asking for your personal information and for payment over email. And again, we will never do that. And I get these emails forwarded to me a lot. A lot of them are texts or screenshots that people text me because my phone and email are on the website. Is a lot of people still that are scammers are still calling us INS, the Immigration and Naturalization Service, and that doesn't exist anymore.
Great tip.
So if you get anything that says INS, you can know that it's a scam.
Okay, that is a really, really great tip. I mean, that's so obvious, but I'm so glad you shared it. So when USCIS sends out something with their logo on it, is it going to have a DHS logo on it, or is it going to have a USCIS logo on it?
Well, our logo, our official seal is the eagle with the Department of Homeland Security logo, and next to it says U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And we do most of our correspondence via mail.
What are the scams related to the Form I-9 and email scams?
Again, that's the email scams that I had mentioned earlier, but this is mostly for employers who employ immigrants, where scammers will send the employers information saying that they're requesting their copies of their I-9 form from USCIS, but you're not required to send your I-9 forms to USCIS. But that's a scam on employers.
Oh, it's a scam on the employers, not the employees to be.
Correct. So another one that is popular, especially with your Spanish-speaking immigrants, is the notarios. These are individuals that use the term notarios, which in Latin American countries is the term for a very prominent lawyer. Of course, that has a different meaning here in the U.S. It's just for a notary public. And these people claim to be able to file and submit your immigration forms for you, and they charge you for it. And more often than not, they're just taking your money and not submitting any forms. So if you need legal advice for your immigration benefits, I highly recommend that you visit the Department of Justice website, Executive Office for Immigration Review. They have an entire list of legal services that are authorized to practice immigration law, those who have been disbarred from practicing immigration law, and they also have a list of pro bono legal services for those who can't afford an immigration lawyer. And so that URL is justice.gov/EOIR.
And I will put these URLs in our show notes. I would like to follow up on the notario's comment. Consumer.ftc.gov has some really super great Fotonovelas. And one of them is dedicated specifically to immigration scams in connection with a notario. The name of that is How Miriam and Pedro Learned About Notario Scams. So it's available for free download in English and Spanish. And also people can order free copies of it. They have other Fotonovelas related to consumer protection, but this one is of particular interest. I have distributed this. It's really saved a lot of people a lot of heartbreak. Did you happen to read the book In the Country We Love, My Family Divided by Diane Guerrero, when she talks about how her family was paying a notario, and then when they go to give the last payment, the person was gone?
Mm-hmm. That happens many times. Yeah, we've gone in because we have a fraud directorate, a national security directorate, and they go and investigate these tips that people call in, and they'll go to the storefront that they have the address for, and there's no store there anymore.
So if a person gets, then they have to go to immigration court because obviously there might be a violation of law. If there is a notario involved and there was a scam, do they get any consideration for their case? Or is that difficult to say?
Well, USCIS has not adopted any policies regarding the provision of immigration benefits that are tailored to victims of immigration scams. But the victims should still report the incidents to a law enforcement agency, to us, and to the FTC.
What are the scams related to the visa lottery?
That's a very popular scam. The diversity visa is run by the State Department. And
Right.
you can visit the State Department and it will tell you step by step how to apply to be part of the visa lottery. Forwarded emails from people who get my email off of our website asking if this is real. It says, congratulations, you've won the visa lottery. Now you have to pay this much. The Department of State is not going to just email you out of the blue to tell you that you've won the visa lottery. So if you want to see all the steps that go into that, you could visit the State Department's website.
They've taken a further step on the Department of State. They've done a series of videos and also PDFs in multiple languages explaining exactly what the process is. So I think the State Department is also becoming aware of more abuse when it comes to the visa lottery. How about job offers?
If you receive a suspicious job offer by email before you leave the country, that could be a scam. Also, you're not allowed to work in the U.S. unless you have a permanent residency card and an employment authorization document. So you can't just go get a job without those. Even if you're here on a student visa, you have to make sure that the visa you're on, if you're a student here, allows you to get a job. So we have our webpage, Working in the U.S., that highlights how to get a job and what kind of forms you need to submit to get an employment authorization document.
So for instance, if somebody is living overseas and they receive an email, hey, come to the United States, we got a really great job for you. What kind of questions do you think a person should ask themselves before they say yes or no or pay money or whatever the case may be?
Well, they'll want to ask, is it a job where it's a non-immigrant where they can come to work for a couple months and then they have to return home? Is it an immigrant job where they can come for a few years and then move forward to maybe apply for a green card? And then they have to ask if they've submitted a petition for them. The employer has to submit a petition and a certificate to the Department of Labor and USCIS to request a foreign worker. So that's another thing. I mean, it's a long, drawn-out process. You don't just get an email and leave the house the next day to go get a job in the U.S.
What kind of scams are targeting students? About a year ago, we had a college that was basically giving people student visas for them to come, but they were not actually teaching classes.
Make sure that your school or university is on the Counselor for Higher Education. And that's an education.gov website. It says schools that are not accredited cannot sponsor you for an F1 student visa. I also wanted to make sure that when people are Googling information about immigration benefits and just information in general about how to immigrate to the U.S., there's a lot of information out there, but I can't emphasize enough that you should really be going to USCIS.gov or any website that has a .gov in the URL. There's a lot of .coms and .nets like usimmigration.com or immigrate2america.com. And that's not an affiliated website. So if they could just make sure it ends in .gov, that will save them a lot of hassle as well.
I really appreciate that because I've been getting inquiries through my Facebook page, and I've been directing them to the information about visas at not only USCIS, but also through the State Department. They always come up with different things, but they're going through so many convoluted scams when the straightforward approach of simply filling out the application and submitting documentation just seems to be beyond a lot of people. So
right. And you bring up a good point, Jennifer. All our forms are free online on our website. So if you're going to an organization or a local business that says they can help you, they can register you faster, they can get you a petition faster, and they're making you pay for forms, that's a scam. We don't charge for forms, and the processing times on our website is the processing time. No one's going to be faster than what we say we're processing the immigration benefits at. So when something sounds too good to be true, unfortunately, it probably is.
Does our consular services overseas ever step in and say, hey, all this fraud is being perpetrated, it has to stop, or is there anything that our government could do overseas to stop that kind of fraud?
I know that USCIS works with law enforcement officials. We work with the FTC, and we partner with other agencies like Department of Homeland Security and ICE when there is immigration fraud. Because we partner with Department of State and share information, I would assume that they're working on something, but I don't know the intricacies of the Department of State.
You only know what's happening in this country. You don't know what's going to be happening outside the country, correct?
Right. That would be a Department of State because they handle immigration processing overseas. Right.
Okay. If you need help,
if you have any immigration questions, to first visit USCIS.gov. We have all our forms that you would ever need on our website. They're all free to download. And in addition, we have things in other languages. So if your English isn't too strong, we do have resources in other languages. And you can find that at uscis.gov/citizenship. That website has frequently asked questions. It has brochures and templates, helps you study for exams. It has how-to manuals and how to apply for different benefits. So it's a really helpful website, and it also is in 12 different languages. And also on our website, we have a virtual assistant called Emma. You can type in your questions in both Spanish and English, and she will find the information for you. And if none of those work, you can call our contact center at 1-800-375-5283, and they can answer your immigration questions. Now, if you have an immigration question that requires legal advice, then I recommend you reach out to a lawyer or a professional who can provide immigration advice. So there's a couple ways to find good lawyers. What I recommend is reaching out to the Department of Justice, the branch called the Executive Office for Immigration Review. They have a list of accredited lawyers and a list of pro bono legal services on their website at justice.gov/EOIR. And they also have a list of attorneys who've been disbarred. So if you have an attorney, I recommend looking them up just to make sure that they're still legal and authorized to practice immigration law. But the best way that we can combat fraud is to be alerted to it. And if someone suspects that they've been a victim of fraud, to please email us at reportfraudtips@uscis.dhs.gov.
Any final words?
No, I really appreciate you taking the time, Jennifer, to talk with us. It's really important that we get out the information that we have available to applicants and petitioners, and this is just another great venue to do it on. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.